The sounds begin again. The sounds. What sounds are we talking about? Again tells us that it is a repeated process. The poem is about the apartheid experience and the brutality and violence exercised by the white South African racial police on blacks. The siren of the police vans are heard in the night as the police arrive in the townships. They kick the doors open and the sounds of pain can be heard from their victims. The violence rises like music as the faces of the victims express pain. You can also hear silent and endless wailing which only those in captivity can describe. Their oppressors are many and persistent to make them feel excruciating pain. The victims look like ghosts, expressing their pain before they are taken away to unknown destinations, probably to be killed. You can hear the sirens and the boats filling the air before my sound begin again. The word again indicates that the action is consistent, recurrent, and persistent from the oppressor. The poem exposes the South African experience and the impact of apartheid on native South Africans. Their lives are characterized by the lack of freedom and they are treated like second-class human beings or animals. The poem deals with brutality and violence of the apartheid system, and the focus is on the police corps that smashes doors to search its victims, symbolized by the word sirens. The sirens are an indication that something has happened and something is about to happen. The next image is that of thunder, which is a reference to police brutality. The white police is fond of using violence and other inhumane treatment on the blacks. The pain that was inflicted on the blacks during the period was unimaginable. The blacks live in total misery because of their color. The smashing of the doors led to the destruction of habitation, highlighting brutality and violence. The nerves of the victims are destroyed, their faces are broken, and the result is the endless wailing best known to those who are tortured. The poem is about man's inhumanity to man, characterized by violence, brutality, misery, and pain perpetuated by the apartheid regime on black South Africans. The poem brings the urgency of the experience to us through a pile of images of horror and brutality. The images such as siren, thunder, or faces split by pain indicate that pain is part and parcel of life experiences for blacks in South Africa. The word unfree in the poem is synonymous to the oppressed. The poem makes repetition of the sounds begin again to reinforce the persistence and steadfastness with which the horror and brutality is perpetuated on the blacks. The word again is significant to show that the sound of the siren is familiar to the black South Africans and their community. The symbol, fierce plight of pain, indicates the severity and degree of the torture and cruelty inflicted on the blacks by white men. The tone of the poem is bitter, as the poem starts out as the spokesperson for the oppressed to bring their experience to the knowledge of the world. Brutus does not only show human suffering, but the helplessness of blacks in the face of white brutality and oppression. They are helpless. They have nowhere to go to, and no one to turn to, and nowhere to seek for help. The experience that is described in the poem is not just that of the speaker, but that which native South Africans were subjected to generally. They experienced constant harassment, arbitrary arrest, summary executions, and imprisonment. Sometimes people were made to disappear. It should be noted that most of the torture ended up in death. The pain felt by the victim reaches its apex, causing their faces to contort to pain. They scream for mercy because of the pain is unbearable. Only those who have gone through such agony can understand what the speaker is talking about. The apartheid laws favored and sanctioned such brutality as blacks were forced to carry passes in order to move around freely in their own land. Failure to carry one meant you could be arrested and tortured even to death. The freedom of blacks was only limited to the townships. There is the imagery that the harassment is constant, and rainfall shows the consistency with which torture is carried out. The use of "my" indicates that the poet has been a victim of the experience, and he is describing it in the poem. The personal experience is transformed to a general occurrence for blacks under the apartheid system. The attitude of the poet is that of condemnation and disgust for the lack of consideration for human life by the white South African place. He also condemns their indifference to human suffering, dignity, and misery. The tone is condemning of such barbarity that is perpetrated with impunity to a group of people. The lack of human compassion is evil, and the treatment of human beings as if they were animals is a bigger evil of the apartheid system.